and welcome back, everybody, to Two Goalies One Mike, episode 184, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, West New York's premier market and tap room, with over 300 beers to choose from at 6 different Western New York locations. If you need a beer, make sure you make it a fatty beer and let them know Two Goalies One Mike sent you. I highly suggest the Fiat Mango Wheat and, as always, Buffalo Go Apparel. Hurls, we were live the other night for I'll Hang Up and Listen, or was it last night? Sorry. After the Sabres were extended their playoff drought to 14 years. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we have a returning guest. This is his third time on the show. Super excited because of what just took place this past week. History being made from Alexander Ovechkin. And we're having on a guy who can speak quite a bit on that. Somebody who played with him, somebody who has a friendship with him. And one of my favorite past guests, Olie the Goalie, Godzilla, Olaf Kolzig. Olie, thanks for hopping on with us. Thanks for coming back for a third time. Pleasure to have you.
Do I get a prize now for third time's a charm?
Well, here's the thing. I was mentioning to Hurls before you came on, before we went live. I have a lot of Hasek stuff on here, some Miller stuff. I don't have any Olaf Kolzig stuff up here. I think we need to change that, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, especially if you're gonna have me on multiple times.
I know. So we gotta
maybe a case of fatty beer.
You want a case of fatty? Oh, hey, when's the last time you were in Buffalo?
Oh, geez, it's been a while. 2013.
2013.
I've probably been in Roch more than I've been in Buffalo.
When's the last time you were in Roch?
2 years ago.
So yeah, next time you come to Roch, if you have any plans, I don't know. Not that you have upcoming plans, but they do have a fatty beer in Rochester. But if that doesn't work, we can mail something out to you. You know, we'll send you the beer menu. We'll definitely send something out to you.
Yeah,
freeze on us? Oh, there you are. Oh, you froze there for a second. Again, thanks, man, so much for coming on with us. Obviously, a lot to talk about. History was made this past week. Something I don't think really anybody would have thought could have happened this year because of the injury. 5 weeks, missed 16 games. And I think I remember us talking about it last time you were around. We specifically talked about Ovechkin and this record. And I remember you being very, 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 very convinced that he would break it. I just think he did it sooner than we expect. Not sooner than we expected, but right. I think it was sooner than we expected.
Yeah, I mean, he still has another year left on his contract. I thought he would get it done within the extension range. But what he did this year was it's otherworldly. I mean, he's almost 40 years old. Broke his leg, first real major injury he's really ever had. And you think that he was in good form, and then all of a sudden that happens, and you think, okay, how's he going to be getting his mojo back at that age after that injury? And not only does he come back a week and a half, 2 weeks early from the injury, he struggled his first game. He get back in the swing of things, but then he just picked up right where he left off. And what's he got? 43 now in the year. You never put anything past Alex Ovechkin.
No, and if you think about it, and I've said this quite a few times, he might have close to 60 goals this season, if at 39 years old, which is insanity. And I'll even go as far as, if it wasn't for lockouts and COVID, he would have over 1,000 goals right now.
Yeah. I mean, you can say the same for Wayne. Wayne went through a couple of lockouts and strikes, and and like he talked about the other night when people were comparing, and he's like, I wish I could have played in some 3-on-3 situations. Instead, we had 5-minute overtimes, and then that was it. So. Mm-hmm. Wayne probably could have got a few more too, but I always looked at Wayne as a playmaker anyway. I didn't look at him as a goal scorer. So to me, Ovi is the ultimate goal. Well, obviously he's all-time leading goal scorer, but he's the ultimate goal scorer.
Hurls, your thoughts?
I would like to personally congratulate you on going viral after the accomplishment the other day. You tweeted out after Obi broke the record. I text the great congratulations, and he responds by telling me I'm part of his history. I'm like, haha, you scored on me once. He says, no, you assisted on 5 of my goals. How does he know that? I didn't know that. Says all you need to know about the greatest goal scorer in NHL history. My question:
It's unbelievable.
do you not? So you don't remember? I mean, oftentimes when a goalie gets an assist, it's an accident. So as far as you can remember, none of those were actually on purpose.
Oh, I'm sure there were some legit passes where he just took it end to end and scored. But I mean, I'm 55 years old. I can't really remember 2 weeks ago. So, you know, yeah, it's just, it was probably a few where I just made a save. The D-man passed it up to him and he went down and beat the goalie. So, um, the strangest stat that I found out shortly after that was that Braden Holtby, who's a way better puck handler than I ever was, only had 1 assist, and he played with him a lot longer. So that really kind of baffles me.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. Is he the type of guy who remembers that type of thing? Is he like you don't see you saw his personality a lot when they won the cup. He's an outgoing guy. He seems to have a great personality. But in terms of thinking the game, kind of like a way that Wayne Gretzky did, is he the cerebral type hockey player that we knew Wayne to be and that he has been?
No. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. That was my point.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no. Is Ovi is he more of a cerebral guy?
I think he's smarter than people think he is. Yeah. He's Wayne was just otherworldly. Ovi's just bombastic in everything he does. The way he skates, the way he shoots, the way he celebrates, the way he interacts with his teammates, the way he lives life off the ice. Like he just loves life. But the one thing I will say about Ovi is he understands the history of the Capitals organization. And so part of me isn't surprised that he knew that I assisted on 5 of his goals. When we won the Stanley Cup in Vegas, we were there as a staff, and obviously we came on the ice after the players had celebrated and they skated around with cup a few times. And he was heading to the dressing room with a cup. And I was off to the side, and out of the corner of his eye, he saw me, and he came over right away, beelined it for me, says, "Can you believe we won this bitch?" And he handed it to me because he knew how much it meant to me, and he knew that I had the opportunity in '98, and we didn't get it done, and so to me, it just showed how much respect he had, and what this meant for me. And then not only that, we were at the team hotel, waiting for the team to come back from the rink. And I had my kids with me and my wife, and he did the exact same thing. As soon as he walked in, he beelined it right to me and handed it to me in front of my kids and my wife. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I just got the utmost respect for that man. He's turned into such a leader and such a great representative of the Washington Capitals and the Washington D.C. area. He's just a uniquely one of a kind person.
I've always loved him. Outside just being a hot fan of the game, outside of the Buffalo Sabres, just his passion to score goals. Like it's no joke. Like he celebrates every goal as if it's his first. And I love that because how often do you see guys who've been around the league for 10, 12 years and they score a goal and just, they barely celebrate, but Ovi just doesn't care. He doesn't care what people think about him. He doesn't care if you think he's over the top. He loves to play hockey. And I think if he had his choice, he'd pull a Yager and play till he was 50.
I don't know about that. I'll be curious to see if he comes back next year. I know he's really looking forward to going back to Russia and getting involved with the the Russian Ice Hockey Federation. But I know he still loves the game. And you're right. There's not another person that celebrates like him, and not only for himself but for his teammates. And the ironic thing is when Obi first came in and was celebrating like this, everybody just loved his enthusiasm, his excitement, and it was just a breath of fresh air. And then as years went on and he became the superstar that he is, And then the rivalry with Crosby, he kind of became a villain. And then he kind of got vilified for all the celebrations, like he was being a hot dog and over the top. And I remember the game against Tampa where he scored and he put his stick down. He pretended like it was a fire and he put his hands over it like his hands are too hot or his stick's too hot. And I remember he got lambasted but in the media the next day. And I'm like, you guys are hypocrites. I mean, this guy is the same guy he was when he was 19 years old. And it's just the way things go. But now it's back on it's on the other end of the spectrum again, where they love the guy. They love what he's done. The thing he did last week with Marc-Andre Fleury when they were in Minnesota, it just speaks volumes of what kind of person he is and what kind of leader he is.
Extremely classy too. Like the whole, and this isn't like me saying anything negative against the Capitals. Like they were just probably not thinking of it, right? It just something maybe easy to forget, even if it's Marc-Andre Fleury. And OV remembered. It's a true captain move there. Hey guys, let's get out there. Let's wish him bon voyage, a good career, because this is the last time we're going to see him, or could be the last time we're going to see him.
Yeah, and they played against each other from day one, and I think he might have the record for most goals scored against by Ovi, but they played against each other so many times, and I think Ovi's got such a ton of respect for Marc-Andre and what he's done and how long he's played, and he's still a great goaltender at his age. It just shows the kind of class that Ovi has.
So the cherry on top of all of this is the best team in the East. Probably a team that not many people going into the season would thought have a shot at the President's Trophy. But here you are at the top of the Eastern Conference, top of the league. Part of that is the goaltending. And two-part question. Have you ever seen a team with two left-handed goaltenders, number one? And number two, did you even expect Logan Thompson and the combination of Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren to be as good as they have been this season?
So first of all, I'll answer that question first. No, I mean, they have just fed off each other and they've been the backbone of our team, and can't say enough great things about those two and how they get along and how hard the team plays for them every night. The left-handed situation is actually unique because, we've never had that before. And the players have actually talked about it at training camp. When we do shootout drills or we do certain drills in practice, they're, 90% of the time they're used to a guy who's catching with his left hand. And now we've got two goalies that is catching with the right hand. So it kind of, for a week or two, guys were screwed up and it kind of messed up their shooting and, where they like to shoot on goaltenders. And they obviously finally got over it. And we've had the season that we've had. And, I give our GM and our coaches a lot of credit. They brought in, I think it was 6 free agents this summer. I think we traded for Logan. We brought Lars Eller back, and it's just, everything has clicked. The chemistry is the best I've ever seen, might be even better than the year that we won the cup. And it's a fun group to be around. I mean, Jacob Chikrin, look at the season he's had, stayed relatively healthy.
Oh my God.
Which is something that's kind of, hindered him in the past. And, 20 plus goals. That's a huge bonus for us. And then Dubois, he's finally found a team that he feels comfortable with and a group that lets him be who everybody expected him to be when they drafted him. And then I can't say enough about Spencer Carberry and the job he's done. I've known Spencer since 2013 when I was associate goalie coach, and I would go down to South Carolina and work with the goalies there. And Spencer always had something. You knew there was something there, the it thing that coaches have. And I wasn't surprised that he got the assistant job in Toronto. He was our head coach in Hershey for a couple of years, and then, not surprised at what he's doing now with our guys in Washington.
Yeah, I've loved the year. We have a friend on our show, Ryan Jury, and he's a massive, massive Caps fan. And he was one of the first guys I messaged after Ovi broke the record. I was like, good for you, dude. Now that that's out of the way, that not that I was a distraction, but now you guys can focus on going to chase another cup, because I don't think anybody outside of Washington, maybe that fan base and people like you, expected them to have this type of a season, especially with Ovechkin missing the amount of time he did. But the depth of the Capitals, they kept that ship afloat even without him. And honest to God, I think they're the best team in the East. And I wasn't expecting that. I'll be admit. Ryan, our buddy, he wasn't expecting that.
We haven't been the last couple of weeks. Let's call a spade. I mean, we've been pretty inconsistent our last probably 7 games, and that might have had to do with with all the focus on the team now and Ovi chasing a record. And so hopefully that's done now. We can just focus on playing like we did the first 90% of the season. But hey, I'll be honest with you. Like, there was a bunch of us. I don't think anybody of us, if they were honest, would have saw us be where we're at right now. I thought we were a playoff team. But like I said, you never can predict when you bring in new people how things are gonna come out. And like I said, the chemistry is the best I've ever seen, and everybody that we've brought in has played a significant role.
You might have heard the Sabres have missed the playoffs for 14 straight years officially as of yesterday, which is pretty depressing to us and a lot of fans throughout Buffalo. A major point of contention this season specifically has been the goaltending, and honestly, since Ryan Miller left, in terms of stability. I don't know how much you've watched of the Sabres. Obviously, they've played the Capitals a few times this season. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen got the contract in the offseason, hasn't necessarily performed to expectations, but at the same time, the defense around him hasn't necessarily been the best. What are your thoughts on the Sabres goaltending situation, not only with UPL, but James Reimer having this incredible run that he's having right now, and then also Devon Levi coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I like UPL, I really do. And maybe it's just the case he put too much pressure on himself this year with the new contract, and it was a combination of things. I mean, you guys, you don't play as well defensively as you probably should, but at the same time, the goaltending, if it's up to par, can bail those guys out sometimes. So it's a combination of things. James Reimer is just obviously a great veteran. It's just a stability factor. And Levi is the guy. He's going to be the guy. And I think it was probably the right thing to put him down in Rochester for the year. Let him get his feet wet. It is such a big jump from junior, college, Europe to the American League. And then they expect this guy to make the jump to the NHL. It is so hard. You need to give these guys time in the minors. They're living on their own. They got a lot of stuff going on off the ice. Got bills to pay, got rent to pay, got girlfriend stuff, and it's all these things that off the ice can affect your play on the ice. And I think the American League kind of insulates you a little bit more. There's less pressure. You can just focus on your game. You're going to get a lot of reps, a lot of games, and then when you're ready, then when it's time, then you're going to be that much more ready to stay in the NHL.
I want to piggyback off of what Connor just asked. With UPL, I've always been, and you as a goaltender who played at a extremely high level, former Vezina Trophy winner, you brought up 97. That was a year, 97, 98. That was a year where we all thought we were going to win the cup, and then Olaf Kolzig came along and snatched that away, with just one of the most incredible performances.
And then Brett Hall came along the next year.
Come on now. Come on now.
Not to put salt in the wounds.
That was no good. His foot was in the crease. All right. That's neither here nor there.
That was such a dumb rule. It was such a dumb rule.
It was a rule. I think
but it was a rule at the time. But you're right. It wasn't a rule at the time.
What irritated us is to make up for the mistake that the NHL made, they came up with this imaginary, there was a memo sent at the beginning of the season that nobody ever saw, apparently, some email or memo that they were doing away with that rule. Even though it was never a thing throughout the season, it wasn't until that game that it was, magically enforced. But that's, again, I could go on and on about that. But, I've always thought that, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is an athletic freak. He's dealt with the hip issues. He's had double labrum surgery. So it's like, he's kind of had to take those steps to get healthy, to start his career. He didn't have a great run in Rochester. He had, below 900 save percentage, never had above 900 save percentage. Not that entirely tells the whole story, but his first real good year of pro was last season. And I've always said it's not his physical ability. It's not the size. It's always been him upstairs. As you can imagine, I'm sure all goalies have gone through at some point. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies. And I feel like that's where he hinders himself, is his ability mentally to string together consistency and just be an NHL caliber starting goaltender. And then that's where I think separates him and Levi. Maybe Levi doesn't have the size. He's 6'1", or maybe 6'2" on a good day. I don't think he touches 6'2", but I look at him and just, if you ever heard him talk, like just the way he looks at the game, the way he reads the game, because he knows he doesn't have the size as other goalies do. I think that's where he has a leg up on guys like UPL, because his anticipation is superb, his footwork is unbelievable, and just his patience. And he's also very athletic. So just your thoughts there on that. And then secondly, not to draw this question out, but your thoughts on the 14-year playoff drought, because you were a guy who battled quite a bit with the Sabres back in the late 90s. You've seen how passionate this fan base is and what it's become now. Your thoughts on that drought, that 14-year drought now, and what you think it's going to take for them to get out of this, because we thought this was going to be the year, and last year was going to be the year when they missed it by 1 point. Like, what is it going to take?
Yeah, so to go back to UPL, that is the biggest thing that separates guys that just stay in the minors, or guys that are just career backups. It's between the ears, and that really is the biggest thing. Everybody gets drafted for a reason. There's athletic ability, whether if you're big, if you're quick, there's a reason why you got drafted, and so it comes down to the individual to help himself figure that part out. I had to do it. I mean, I was a first round pick, and I made the Caps my first year out of camp. I got sent back to junior. I came back with the wrong attitude, not a bad attitude, just the wrong attitude, thinking that I could dominate junior, and you don't realize that it's so chaotic that everybody that plays in the NHL, there's a reason why they're the best at what they do. And so it took me a number of years to finally figure it out. It was when I was in Rochester. I got loaned out to Rochester, and I think that was my breaking point. And I was so pissed off at the team for loaning me out and not keeping me with the minor league team in Baltimore. And I just said to myself, okay, well, there's other teams in the league. Maybe I'll make a good run and a good showcase for Buffalo. And so I got a couple of books, and I worked on my mental toughness and not getting down on myself and not letting the temper get the best of me. And as a result, I had a great year. We lost the Calder Cup Finals to Cape Breton that year. I had multiple contract offers. Washington came back to me, and just out of loyalty, I re-signed with them, and it was still a few bumpy years down the road, but I finally figured it out between my years, and then as a result, my career took off. So, these things come down to individuals, and when it comes to size, you're talking about Levi being 6'1", 6'2". Braden Holtby was 6'1". Dustin Wolf in Calgary is not even 6 foot, I think, or barely 6 foot. And look what he's doing. So the size thing is, if you're able to process and see the puck and have more patience to stay on your feet and not drop automatically, size really doesn't make a difference. So, I think the between the ears part is the biggest thing. If you can get that under control, then you're all set. Now, as far as the Sabres go, man, I feel for that fan base. I really do. I grew up in Toronto for a number of years when they just had Hockey Night in Canada on, and I remember watching the games from the Odd, and remember watching Don Beaupre, and it was they're probably one of my second or third favorite teams growing up, and then obviously all the years that we played against them, and playing against Hasek, and then against Ryan Miller, and then all the guys that they had up front. I mean, and the fan base when they moved into the new HSBC arena. I don't know what it's called now, but yeah, it was fun to go play in Buffalo. It really was, because you just love the excitement of the fan base. So I feel for them, and I don't know. Obviously I'm not part of that organization. I wouldn't know what the answer is. I mean, it's kind of like the Edmonton Oilers there for a while. They got all these high draft picks, and they just couldn't make it click. And you know, sometimes you just need a new voice, whether it's upstairs or behind the bench or whatever. But I definitely feel for the fan base, especially because I played in Raj for a year, and I felt like I was part of the family for at least a year.
Yeah, Ryan Miller is actually he's after he does his catwalk for charity event this coming week. He's actually I think he's getting inducted into the Amherst Hall of Fame as well right after. It was pretty cool for him.
Oh, that's cool.
He had a nice career
That's
in
cool.
Rochester. Yeah, some people forget, too, that you were a part of that organization for a short time. Coming back to the Capitals, the road to the playoffs. Is there a matchup that you're looking for in the first round? Like, is there a specific team that you don't want to play? Or is it
I don't think so. Because when you start thinking that way, if you're matched up with a team that you don't like, or you start, you dread it, then you start playing mind games with yourself, and then you're already behind the 8 ball before the puck's even dropped in game one. So, I think we're confident in our group with whoever we play. I think as of now, is it the Canadians? Yeah, I think it's Canadians, either Canadians or Rangers. So, hey, the way the Canadians are playing, it's going to be a tough series. The way, and we played the Rangers last year. Granted, they're a different team this year, but they absolutely gave it to us last year to beat us 4 straight. So I think if we do play the Rangers, there's going to be a little bit of payback in the back of our mind. But no, you've got to beat everybody in order to win the Stanley Cup. And so I think you just take who you get, you prepare, and try to get through them as quick as you can for the next round.
Yeah, last thing for me, you mentioned Dustin Wolf, and I'm going to nerd out as a goalie really quick. As a goalie who's under 6 foot, I've really noticed that he's particularly
you kind of look like him a little bit.
Yeah, I've gotten that before, actually, which I really subscribe to. Not quite as good, but I try to channel him a little bit. But I've noticed he's really particularly good on his edges. And as a smaller goalie, to get across your net, to be as quick as he is, that is going to really benefit him throughout his career. And we've seen that from him this season. Do you think his development path and the way he plays could be the model or the path that Devon Levi, as a smaller goaltender himself, could follow in terms of the number of AHL games played? I think it was like 165 for Wolf. And then also his play style, being quick on his edges, being really strong on his edges, to be a little bit bigger in net to succeed at the NHL level.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's the model that any goaltender could follow. To play that many games in the minors, and like I said, just keep working at your craft. Winning hockey games, it just does wonders for your confidence. And so, I always, we won the Calder. I lost the Calder Cup with Rochester. I won the Calder Cup with Portland, and I always took those playoff experiences with me to the next level. And even though it's the next level, that when you're in that moment, you can get it done. And I knew I could get it done at the American League level, and so I didn't have any doubts I could get it done at the NHL level. And I think that goes hand in hand with these young guys, just playing down there, winning, working at their game, and that so that when you do finally on the roster full time in the NHL, you can draw off those experiences and know that you can get it done at certain times, regardless of what level it's at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Last for me, one's a statement, one's a question to you. Going back to Ovi, is there any particular moment while you were either playing with him or outside of obviously your moments with him with the Cup that you look back on and you're really fond of with Ovi? And secondly, I just want to point out, and again, this is a statement on goaltending equipment these days. You had possibly one of the sexiest setups I've ever seen at least from the Heaton standpoint. The CCM Heaton combo here. Do you think goalie equipment, at least today, I mean, isn't remotely as beautiful as it was back in your days? And I miss the Bauer reactor setups, the Heaton setups, the Coho setups. Just an absolute thing of beauty here from you, especially with the helmet.
Yeah, I don't know. They're a lot more simplistic. Until you get to like an outdoor game or a heritage game or something, and they get some pretty cool ideas. But yeah, here's a little fact for you. So I was working with Brian Heaton back when I was playing junior, and I was actually the first goalie to put a pattern on my pads, and it was just a black triangle, and the thought was just to have players look at it and tease them into shooting it there. And then it just kind of evolved into these designs that we started doing, and then other companies obviously picked up on it. But yeah. But I mean, look at I always like Felix Potvin's gear. Look like the cat claw. There were some really, really good ones back in the day. You're right.
I to your point about simplicity, I used to love like the Hasek and the Cujo setups with just the white and blue or the red and white Bauer reactors, and then you have guys like you and you with the Heaton here, or Patrick Waugh with the Coho setups, and then again, my stepbrother's favorite goalie was always Felix Potvin, and I have to agree, man, he had one of the best setups in terms of Toronto goalies. He used to love just between the designs on his helmet and just I think he might have wore a Coho too. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, Coho. Yep.
Coho, but just a beautiful setups back in those days.
Yeah, I miss them. Mm-hmm. But and the guys' gear now, they're just so light. Like I think these ones here, they were still deer hair with a bit of foam. And then my last year I played in Tampa, I had the Lefebvre Reeboks, and I couldn't stand them. There was no, and I like to bend in my knee. Where these guys now, they're so loose, they got the big foam insert knee pad that they just fall on. It just, I don't know, it doesn't look comfortable to me.
Yeah,
too blocky.
And yeah, is that glove legal? not today. I don't think today it would be. That
one, no, that one, no.
No. And any other moments with Ovi you outside of the ones you already spoke of that you look back and you're really fond of?
Yeah, so it was probably the first two times I met him. The first time I met him, it was during the lockout. I was in Berlin playing in the DEL, and we were in Cologne, and his junior team was or he was either doing an appearance there or he was playing there, and we'd already drafted him, so I knew of him, and I guess he knew of me, and so we met before the game, and I just remember the genuine smile and excitement. Normally the Eastern Bloc guys, like the Russians and the Czechs, and when they come over, they're a little standoffish, takes a little while to gain their trust. But not with Ovi. Like he was engaging, outgoing right away. And then his first day when he was in Washington, he wanted to room with a North American guy because he wanted to learn English, he wanted to learn the culture. He just wanted to be a part of the group. He didn't want to have any sense of entitlement. He didn't kind of slither off in the back of the room, keep to himself. He wanted to be in the center of everything. And I think that boded well for him. He felt comfortable right away. He knew his teammates loved him right away. And the rest is history. But no, he's just a genuine guy. He's a throwback. I mean, kids nowadays, after games, they'll have a protein shake and go on a yoga mat and stretch, and he'll go back with the trainers and have a Bud Light. So he could have played in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Yeah. Oh God.
I know you hate that
card
picture.
Ever. Yeah, I do.
If I got that blown up, would you sign it?
Yeah, I would, hesitantly, but I would.
That'll go on the wall. No, I'll do something else. Would love to get you back on the wall. You'd be the first outside of Jimmy Craig. You'd be the first non-Sabres goalie on the wall. So we'll make it happen. Olie,
I'll take that
thank
as an
you.
honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Olie, thank you so much for hopping on with us, man, and just reminiscing on your time with Ovi, your time in your career, and just giving us your thoughts on the situation with the Sabres. Couldn't appreciate your time more.
No problem, guys. Good catching up.
All right, guys. This has been episode. See you guys later. This has been episode 184. Two Goalies, One Mike, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western York's Premier Market and Tap Room. Until next time, I am Duane for my co-host Connor Hurley. Actually, Hurls, now that do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
That was great. A lot of cool insight, really cool stories that you wouldn't hear about Alex Ovechkin from a guy who's clearly spent a lot of time with him. I thought it was really interesting to hear about who he is as a person and how he thinks the game and everything related to that. And he gave some really good insight on the Sabres goalies as well. I think obviously a guy like that with the experience that he has is incredibly valuable. And I had no idea he's been with the team as long as he has with the Capitals. He's still a development coach, and he's still around the team, and he probably has a pretty integral part, especially with the goalies, on what they've done. So really cool. Olie the Goalie, he's the man. And it was great to have him on.
Yeah. Again, 3-time guest. He's just one of those guys that you could, like you said, he brought up, send him a fatty beer, but he is one of those guys you could probably kick back and have a beer and just talk hockey with, like he's any other fan, because he is a fan. So,
and he's German, so you could definitely have a beer with him.
Yeah, you definitely have a beer. We'll definitely have to work on getting him something custom made from Fatty Beer sent out to wherever the heck he is. I don't even know where he is, but wherever he is, we'll send him something. But again, I'm sorry, I kind of cut off my own outro there. This has been episode 184, Two Goalies, One Mike, brought to you by Fatty Beer. Until next time, do Sabres play tomorrow?
Let's see. I think so. They play, yes, the Columbus Blue Jackets on the road.
They'll be a tough. Are they out of it?
Not officially yet, but pretty soon.
Yeah, I was really pulling for them. Not gonna lie. Well, until tomorrow night, he said. Post game for I'll hang up and listen. Until then, guys, we'll talk to you later. And as always, go Sabres.